Hello, Stitch People. Welcome to the Stitch People podcast. I'm Lizzie Bean, your host and the founder of Stitch People, where our goal with cross-stitching is to inspire your personal creativity, and our goal with podcasting is to help you make some new friends while you're at it. Today's conversation with Michelle is so much fun. I hope if you listen to your podcasts on more than regular speed so that they're extra fast, you might want to slow this one down because she and I are just going back and forth because we just have a lot in common and we talk about all the great things. Michelle comes from a great legacy of makers and crafters and sewers, and to hear about her background and how that's inspired her and made its way into her cross-stitching is really, really cool. So I hope you enjoy this chat between me and Michelle. Thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm doing really good, Lizzie. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Well, thanks for being willing. We'd have nothing fun to listen to if no one was interested in volunteering to chat with me. So it's the two-way street. Appreciate it very much. Michelle, where are you based? Where are you located?
I am in Palmdale, California, which is about an hour from Los Angeles.
Nice. Which direction? North or south?
North.
Okay. Not
North.
Too shabby. So you're still, let's see, we're recording this very end of November. You are still pretty warm there, I would assume.
Yes.
It's cooling down slightly?
It's like in the 70s.
Oh.
I'm hoping that it'll cool down soon, but in the night it gets chilly, but not in the afternoons.
Oh. I'm going to have to keep Spencer from listening to this episode. He loves California weather for that reason. I admit, when we lived in California for like a year and a half, we were in Orange County in Anaheim. And oh my goodness, the fact that I could just throw a light jacket on in January and take the dogs on a walk was, it's just the best. Yeah. Are you from California, born and raised?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm from Southern California. So, I've lived in different parts, but from the majority of my life.
Cool.
I did live in Mexico City for a year to go to school there.
Awesome.
And lived in Arizona for a little bit, but the majority of my life has been here in California.
Right,
I love it.
Right? And you love it. What do you love about it?
Like you said, the weather, and there's always something going on. And we're not that far away from LA. So it's just you have a little bit of everything. You want to go to the mountains? There you go. They're right there. You want to go to the beach?
This way.
Just go in a different direction. You want to go to Disneyland? You're right there.
Love Disneyland. Mm-hmm. Have you been since they've reopened post-COVID?
No, I'm still waiting. So that's on my list of things to do next year.
I've heard there've been some changes. So I was just curious to see, just see how it all goes. So Michelle, tell us a little bit about cross-stitching. How long have you been a cross-stitcher?
I've been doing it on and off, probably, I want to say 30 years, but that's when I was a little kid.
That's a lifetime thing. I love it.
Yeah. I learned when I was in middle school.
Okay.
So, I learned, and I remember my first project was this duck that everyone had in their kitchen in the early 90s. It's the duck with the blue bow.
The duck with the blue bow. Totally. Yeah. I know. Around its neck.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's what it was. I don't have it, but I still remember it was the little duck, and it was probably 3 inches by 3 inches. So it wasn't that big of a project, and I did in school. And so
and
I really
was it an art class or home ec or something like that?
It was an art class at my junior high. So it was a long time ago, but I really liked it. And then they gave us kind of free reign. We got to pick our projects. And then, so I did a couple projects in that class. I'd put it down every now and then, every couple of years, I'd pick it up again. And about 2 years ago, I saw Stitch People, and then I just got hooked.
Oh, fun.
And I wanted to make Christmas presents. And so I bought the book, and then I started getting other patterns. And so I started doing it, and it's I've been hooked. So it's since then I've had a needle in my hand, almost 24/7.
I love that so much. What about this Stitch People patterns? What did it for you? Was it the gift giving or just making your own patterns? What got you hooked?
I like the fact that I could give something to somebody that was personalized, that looked like them, and that we could kind of adjust the pattern. So it wasn't just, you weren't looking for a pattern per se with a certain design on it. You could just take it and kind of run with it. And I like that. And I like that. And now it's every time I do a portrait, I'm okay, so what direction can I go? What can I do a little bit? What can I add to this? So
love that.
So I do love that.
I love that a lot. And I love that you challenge yourself and always approach it with fresh eyes, not just repeating the same things that you've done before. That
and
great.
You start seeing people in stitch form. I know that you had a commercial like that a while back for the ladies.
That's so true.
Every time I look at them, I see them in stitches, and it's like that's how I start seeing it.
It's true. You start to think of how would I make that angle, or make their hand do that, or make that piece of clothing look right. Totally.
Mm-hmm.
It's I feel like you see that in cartoons a lot. Like when somebody's really hungry, they'll start to look around and everybody will start looking like a food item or something. But in the crafting world, you look around and everybody, with stitch people, everybody starts to look like little cross-stitch people just walking around. I love that. So do you do any other crafts besides cross-stitching?
Yes. So I kind of do a little bit of everything, not too much right now, but I've done
I love a little bit of everything.
Dabbled in soap making, did some scrapbooking. I have all the molds. If you ever want to make soaps, I have them here.
That's pretty cool. I would love to learn how. Is it true that soap making is kind of dangerous?
Yes, that's why I was only allowed to do the melt and pour one. My husband's like, you're too clumsy.
It's the is it lye? The lye in soap that makes it, which is what makes it good for killing germs, I think, right? But it's acidic, or it could burn you. I don't know. That's all I know.
You can burn yourself. So I'm slowly kind of gathering enough courage to do that. One of these days I'll do that. But mine were just melt and pour, putting herbs in them and stuff. So, I did that, and then I did scrapbooking, and then when I was younger, I also helped out my mom and my grandfather because they ran a costume shop. So I've always been doing crafts in some form or another. Yeah.
So can you sew clothes?
Yes.
Are you
I can,
a seamstress?
Not a seamstress per se. I can do it. I just would rather do the crafting.
Okay. Fair enough.
And so when I was working for them, I was doing more of the crafts. So there was a time where I worked for the Ice Capades. That was actually a fun time.
Wow.
Doing some of the costumes, like the hats.
Okay.
Sewing the ribbons, or just kind of getting the shapes of the hats ready and wiring them and doing all that stuff. So I had a background like that, but I just realized that I want to do this for me.
Right.
Even though it's fun, I really enjoy the crafts, and I just want to have fun with it.
Yeah, there definitely is a difference, that feeling of doing something because you like it and you get to do it versus doing something because you have to do it, even if it is a fun thing.
Yeah.
Even if it's a fun thing that you would otherwise like and are good at, but it's the fact that you have to do it, it all of a sudden changes.
Yeah.
So
especially when it comes with your whips or the work in progress, it's you can just leave it. You can't necessarily leave a hat by itself.
Right. And sometimes a project will benefit from being able to leave it. You leave it alone for a while, you percolate, you think about it, you have some ideas, and then you have, a great new idea to add to it or to fix a problem. But when you've got deadlines, you don't have that luxury.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yes. A friend of mine is a costume designer and seamstress, and she used to work for the local community theater. And she spoke very similarly to you that, it's a skill set I love, and it's a fun thing to do and to think about. But then when you have the pressure and the deadlines, and, you got to make sure things fit everybody, and it adds a whole new layer. Mm-hmm. How long did you do that?
I did that probably about 5 years.
Oh, wow. That's
great.
Then
I ended up kind of rebelling and doing insurance for a living.
Oh, I love it. Get all analytical. Just all business.
So I have that side, but then I have the crafty side too.
That's
and
good.
I feel like the crafting actually helps because it helps you see outside the box. Which is one of the things that I do like with crafting, and Stitch People is one of those things where you get to look outside the box.
Yeah, you have to, because everybody's different. I love that. And do you feel like your crafting, are you still in insurance now?
Yes.
So do you feel like your crafting life, your creative projects help you in your job? Do you feel like it's like you said, like with thinking outside the box or problem solving. Have you ever seen like a direct correlation, or is it sort of more of a general sense?
Sometimes with specific situations, I can kind of see that. I'm like, okay, let me put my crafting brain on.
And then I'll say,
you this like doesn't work this
lanes
way.
For a minute.
Yeah. And so you're like, okay, it doesn't work this way. How can we make it work? And it's just kind of like the same thing when you're crafting. You're always looking for different ways or trying to hone certain techniques or trying to look to see what is best for that situation. And I feel like that's really helped me. And that's one of the reasons why I love doing all the crafting.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned. I find that some of my most, I don't even know what words to use, like my most like triumphant crafting feats or like projects that I'm the most proud of is when I have used things that weren't meant to be used in the way that I ultimately ended up using them.
Exactly.
Where, you know, I love to like go through the aisles at Joann's or Michael's or something and just look at all of the things. There's so many things out there. And oftentimes I can see a material or something that you're supposed to be using for floral arranging or wreath making or painting or something, and I get an idea for like, oh, this material, this shape, this specific element is exactly what I'm looking for in this totally unrelated project that has nothing to do with florals or wreaths or whatever. And I think that's definitely, you know, in business, that's such a generic word, but in more logistical things, that's a really good skill where it's like, oh, you know, this policy is meant for this, but we might be able to apply it here, or you know, accounting things or legal things where it's like, oh, it's really meant for here, but you can actually apply it in this way. And that, I don't know, that can be very satisfying for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. What kind of insurance do you do?
It's medical insurance, so medical, dental, vision. Okay. Yeah. I really like, it's a different way of helping people. I find that sometimes it's like you're satisfying a different part of, you're helping their body, helping their mind, but
absolutely.
then like, the other crafting is just kind of like, you're kind of getting to another, you're helping them or touching them in a different, kind of like in a different way, kind of like you're,
Yeah, I love that. So Michelle, are you from, well, actually you mentioned, you already answered this question. You said it was your mother and your grandfather who did the costume shop?
Yes.
So it sounds like you come from a relatively handy, crafty kind of family.
Yes. So I get that from my mom's side of the family. Everyone is a little crafty in their own way. So
that's great. Do you have any other cross stitchers in your family that you get to commiserate with?
No, that no one else has picked up cross stitch, but I did when my grandma was still around. I would actually watch her, and it was a little interesting because she tried to teach me, but my Spanish wasn't that great. And so I would just kind of like just look at her and see how she was doing it.
Yeah.
One of the things that did come up since I am posting my stuff on Instagram so people can see it, I had a cousin that I haven't talked to in ages. And she said, oh, you just picked up what grandma's gift. Oh. And they showed me a little embroidery. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so cute. I wish I could have like shared it with her and said, look, I
love that.
I can show you this technique now. I know how to do it. But it's pretty cool. I'm the only one that really does the embroidery other than like my grandmother and my great aunts that used to do it. But my mom is more sewing. So she's she does the costumes, shoes, hats. And we would joke around when we were little because there would be this big pot on the stove. And we're like, oh, mom's cooking something really good. And we would get into the kitchen and look in the pot and she was dyeing elastic. Or exactly. Or you'd see like the oven and then she was like, you think, oh, she's making cookies. No, she's drawing skull caps in the oven. So I've always been around that. And
that's so funny.
Yeah. And so it's always nice. It's always been something that we've had.
I love it. So when you mentioned you're in Southern California, so the costume shop, was that associated with like Halloween, like people get to rent and go to costume parties kind of costume shop? Or was it a costume shop for like theater or productions or that kind of stuff?
It was for theater, for cruise, like it's basically for cruises, for theater, for motion pictures.
Yeah.
And I also worked at Joann's too, but that's a different whole set of stories. But yeah, so we would get orders to come in depending on what they needed.
Yeah.
And so we would just work on those. So I worked with my mom. My grandfather was a master tailor, so he worked with the studios for many years. And so now I see movies, I'm like, oh yeah, my grandpa made that. Oh yeah, my grandpa made that. And he had stories about everyone. And I'm like, I didn't know you got to meet this actor. I didn't know you got to meet this actor. Like after he passed, I was like, my mom said, oh yeah, he did this stuff for Johnny Cash. I'm like, what? He worked on Johnny Cash's stuff. And she's like, yeah, you didn't know that? Oh, he didn't tell me. But like some of his stuff is cool. It's pretty cool to see because he worked on some of the capes that Elvis did.
Oh, wow.
Like when he was in Vegas and Liberace stuff. And so there's a lot of history there. And it's
that's cool.
Yeah. But
how inspiring to grow up in being surrounded by all that, even if you didn't know exactly who he was working with at the time, but just that that making is kind of like part of your DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it is pretty cool. It's like not knowing and just seeing some of the, just kind of like what he was working on at the time. It's like, looking back, I really didn't know what he was. I knew he was always working on something, but it's like now that I'm older, there's like a layer of appreciation, especially then you can kind of see the details. It's like, oh yeah, this looks like something he would make. It's his style. So it's pretty cool.
I love that. It's such a shame that level of appreciation kicks in for people. It's inevitable. There's no way to get around it, but it's like the older you get, the more you appreciate your parents, and you wish you could go back in time and act a little differently maybe when you were a teenager, because now that you're older, Exactly. And same thing with grandparents, and that one's especially hard because they're not around usually as long as we have our parents with us, and it just it's hard. I know exactly what you mean. My grandma was just a hobbyist with embroidery, but I've seen a few of her things, and it's like as a kid, it's like, oh, it's boring. I want to watch TV. I want to play outside. But now that I'm doing that, it's like, oh, I wish I could sit down with her and learn a little more. Yeah.
Yes. I'm just waiting for my daughter to get a little bit older so I can show her.
How old is she now?
She's 4.
Okay. That's great. Little. She's just getting on the cusp of maybe showing some interest and being able to participate. That's exciting.
And she'll probably be like, Mom, I don't want to do this. I want to go play.
Does she show interest in, other like coloring or painting or other artsy things? Music. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Is that something that's come just really naturally to her?
Yeah, that is.
Oh, I love that.
I've just kind of seen that the music she gravitates towards that. So who knows? I might have a Lady Gaga like 10 years from now.
A little Lady Gaga running around. Yeah. I love it. I love that. So, do you just have one child?
Yes, I just
one
have
daughter.
I
just
have
her
one.
4-year-old. Oh, that's great. Oh, how fun. And I think it's so fun too how it's so clear to you that she has her own interests, that clearly for something in her gravitates towards music, and that, you can help her hone her interests as she gets a little more older and confident and things like that. Are you particularly musical?
I'm not. My husband is.
Oh,
but
okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think everything for me was just kind of like, I got all of the crafting and nothing else. And I'm just kidding.
Hey, there's value in that though, because for those who are listening and can't see, there's this beautiful wall behind Michelle, and she's got a great blue and white, like geometric patterned curtain. There's like fun things on the wall. There's a bunch of cross stitch on the wall. There's these really great pillows. So you can see that it's funny. I feel like oftentimes, since crafting is a hobby for most people, and we live in a world that really values like your productivity and your career and your like output, your contributions, I feel like a lot of people who craft or who, makers kind of apologize for it. It's like, oh, like I'm just a crafter. I just do crafty things. But it's so important because like your home is beautiful, and you can see the beautiful touches that crafters leave on the world, and the gifts we give, or the Halloween costumes you make for your kids, or the fun memories that you make, and little party favors. It's all those little details that crafters are so good at that make things so special, So anyway, I think it's a great thing, and I think it's very valuable. So,
oh, thank you.
So tell us a little bit more about your family. How do you spend time together? What do you enjoy doing?
Well, we travel a lot, so we really haven't really gotten to travel a lot the last 18 months.
Right.
But we do have some trips planned, and before I had my daughter, my husband and I would take cruises, and we would go take road trips. And so now we're going to start doing that again, which is kind of really fun because we can find all those really weird and quirky sites that are all across America.
And, so do you have any road trips? Well, I'm going to ask about road trips and cruises, so get thinking. Do you have any that stand out more than others that you've taken?
I think for the road trip, I really liked the trip that when I went to the Grand Canyon.
Oh, wow.
That was actually a pretty nice drive. And just going in and I had never been there before, but just being able to go and see all of the scenery there, that was actually pretty nice. Do you
remember if you did the North Rim or the South Rim or both?
I don't remember. I think it was probably...
The South Rim's the more popular one. That one's like your classic, like the deserty Grand Canyon with the helicopters and the glass bridge and all that stuff.
I think we were closer to Arizona, so I don't think we were on the Nevada side, so I don't remember which one that was. Okay. I remember that there was like the little Flintstone town that you go through.
Oh, fun.
So I'm trying to remember which one is that.
I love that. Yeah, but the Grand Canyon's a beautiful place. I went in high school, and my dad and I hiked rim to rim, and it's just a majestic, what a word for the Grand Canyon, right? Like, oh, it's majestic, said me and everyone else ever, but it really is. It's it's going to be huge and spectacular, but when you get there, it's like you don't realize how huge and spectacular.
Exactly.
It's special.
It's hard to kind of explain the feeling that you get when you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And what about cruises? What's your favorite cruise destination?
I think I like the Cayman Islands.
Ooh, what about Cayman do you love?
I just love the way that there's it's very relaxed. It's very calm, peaceful. The water's blue. It would crack me up going to the business district and you see the little chickens just walking across the street. It's just kind of like everything is so different from Los Angeles.
Right.
And I hope to go back soon. But it's just so calm and so peaceful.
Kind of like my favorite. They're pretty world renowned for snorkeling, right? Because of that blue water.
I believe so. Yeah, I think so.
Heard that. I love a tropical destination. I tell you what, it's like you said, just a totally different pace, and especially compared to a big, giant, massive city like LA.
Yes.
It's totally different. LA's just concrete and cars.
I know.
Crammed.
More. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, and then we're going to be taking my daughter to Alaska in September.
Wow.
So that's going to be kind of cool. So that's something that I'm looking forward to.
Have you been to Alaska before?
I have. I went about 5 years ago.
Wow, cool.
And that's actually pretty cool. It's like you look at the trees and you see a little white spot, and you kind of you take a closer look, and it's like there's a bald eagle, and they're all over the place, and it's it's just so cool.
Wow, I have not been to Alaska. I'd love to go. Are you going to revisit some of the places that you saw before? Or are you going to go explore new areas on your trip?
Yes. So we're going to it's on the cruise. So we're going to go to Juneau and go to, go see the glaciers.
Awesome.
That one I want to be able to go visit again. It's just kind of cool because it's like a national park. And
totally.
The rangers come on the ship and they start talking about it.
Oh, cool. That's a perk.
It's pretty cool. And
I'd love to see that. And I've heard that the glaciers are something that's like, you better see them quick.
Exactly.
Only going to be able to see them for so much longer. So yeah, we got to get up there. That's cool. Yeah,
but it's something to look forward to. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Nice to have something on the calendar. Have some, like you said, something to look forward to, something to think about, something to plan for. That's great. I love that. And now, were you much of a traveler? I get the sense you were a traveler, even before the family life, before your husband. You mentioned that you spent a year in Mexico City.
Yes. So I lived
in college, or
it was like it was in between. Like it was kind of like my sophomore year of high school.
Oh, cool. All right.
So I went over there. I just wanted to try it. My grandpa was over there, and I went to school over there, and it's very different, but I loved it. Because it was, being able to explore a new city. And one of the things that I loved was being able to navigate the metro, the subway.
Oh, yeah.
And looking back at it now, and I was thinking, what was I doing? That was like a big, dangerous city. And here I was just going, I'm like, I can get from here to here. All I have to do is take this subway station and get off here. And now I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, okay, I should have like been a little bit more careful. But
you said your grandpa's down there. So did you get to live with family while you were?
Yes.
While you were there? Oh, see, there you go. Yeah. You were fine.
Yeah, I was fine. I had to take the bus to school. I had to like go over there, and then it came to a point where they would ask me if I need to get here, what's the best way to go? And so it's like, I would tell them, well, I would go this way. But I didn't think about that. So it was fun, and it was easy to kind of get situated and kind of find my bearings. And so it's like very colorful.
Yeah. That's a great word for it. And that's such a fun time of life to go do that kind of thing, because I feel like, oh gosh, what is a sophomore? Like, what, 16 years old?
Yeah.
You know, and you're so close to kind of independent adulthood. And so, so I remember visiting New York City my senior year, and I was with my mom, but even still, there's something about like feeling confident on public transportation, or feeling like you know your way around a new place, or just being forced to you're thrown into a place and you kind of have to sink or swim. And when you swim, especially at that particular age, it's really empowering.
Yes, it is.
Because it just forces independence. You have to think ahead. You have to be safe. You probably were safe. You probably were aware and taking precautions. And anyway, I think there's something to be said for that. That's a really cool, formative time. Very colorful.
Yes.
Like you said. That's great. I love that. So when you made the shift from costumes and kind of a artistic job to something a little more logistical, was that very purposeful? You mentioned that it was kind of like almost a defiant switch. Did you specifically seek out, something with numbers, or something with, legal, something insurance, just that was very, very straightforward?
No, actually it didn't happen that way.
Okay, you tell us everything.
What happened was I did want to go ahead and move forward into the career, kind of do more costumes, kind of go into a union house that kind of had opportunities, except it's very hard to get in sometimes, and sometimes you have to wait until the time is right. And so what happened with me, I'd gone to work on costumes, then I went to go to Joann's just because I was looking for something. And then I really wanted to work at this one particular place. And basically they said, okay, we're going to have a spot in 3 months. And I was at a point where I needed a job. And I said, okay, I'll just answer phones, whatever. Because at that time I was very anti-business. I'm like, I'm a free spirit. I'm going to go ahead and go with the wind and just do whatever I need to do. Yes. And then a friend of mine had actually said, my parents are looking for someone to answer phones for a little bit. And I said, okay, well, I have another job that I'm waiting for. There's going to be an opportunity that opens up in about 3 months. And she said, okay. So I got the job. And after a month, I really liked it. And I saw how we could make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
And I basically said, you know what? I want to stay. I want to get my insurance license. I got licensed, and it's kind of like that's where it all started. And I'm still with the same company, but in a different capacity.
Wow.
Come and gone. But it's really nice to be able to be part of that family, even though the costume community was a family as well.
Sure.
It's just a different family.
Yeah.
And I like that because I have what I do, and then I can do the things that I enjoy on the side.
Oh, I like that. I like that it was almost I don't know, it was like accidental that
it was.
found, you know,
it was.
Whereas like it was supposed to just be temporary, and it was like, hey, wait a minute, this is great. I love that. What was it that, I mean, was it just the way that you get to help people in kind of a new and different way? Is that what appeals to you the most about it?
I think that's what it was. I mean, when I was younger, I wanted to go in the entertainment industry. I wanted to be able to do that. Yeah. But then as I kind of got a little bit older, I kind of saw, okay, well, I can make a difference here. It's fulfilling. Yeah. And it's in its own way. And, right. And like I said, and plus the hours are normal.
That's huge. I tell you what, a lot of people don't know that about the entertainment industry, but pretty much every job in the entertainment industry, every single one is kind of unpredictable with hours, with schedule, with everything. It is the antithesis of routine, which works for some people and not for others. And sometimes, and even for the people that it works for, sometimes it doesn't work for them all the time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can imagine how it might be a breath of fresh air to just know what you have to do, and you go do it, and you come home and you can have your family and do your fun things on the side and have your free time. And it's all very like straightforward. It's,
yes.
Routine is a good thing. Spencer and I always talk about that. We like routines. So yeah, that's great. I love that. So I'm curious, where did you meet your husband?
We met online.
Yes, I've got a number of friends who have that same story.
But I'll tell you a story.
Modern way.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that though. We met online. But we found out that his brother and sister went to school with my sister. And what I didn't know is that he was going to school at the time after work. And he actually sat next to my coworker that sat next to me at work. So we're like,
my gosh.
It just happened to be that like there were all these little things that kind of brought us together. It was like all these little connections.
That.
So, so we were like, okay, it's just meant to be. We just needed to go online to kind of get us introduce us. And then the rest was history. Yeah. We've been together, like, I want to say we're going on 15 years.
I love it. Congrats. Yeah. That's
Thank
great.
You.
I love that small world story. My sister's husband, they met online as well. And yet similarly, it was like, they realized that they were at the same college at the same time. And they even think that they were at a number of the same concerts and in a number of the same classes. But like those big general ed classes, like the big like American history class where there's like 200 people in the class. But they realize like they've compared schedules since and realized like they probably were in similar classes. But like you, it was like just they needed something else to get them actually together finally, even though they kept like orbiting each other for so long. It's funny how that happens.
And then another thing that was really funny, it was kind of crazy because when I was little as a kid, I would go to my great aunt and great uncle's house, and they would have a big New Year's Eve party. Well, I didn't know that he lived right around the corner. So I'm like, how did that happen? So all of this time, like I'm probably like 8 or 9 at the time going to these parties. It's like, I wouldn't have known that my husband was literally around the corner.
That gives me chills, like full body chills.
Yeah, so it was really funny. And I was like, I just couldn't believe that. And so it was, I showed his father pictures like, yeah, I know him. And I'm like, well, that was my uncle. And so they knew each other, and which I thought was kind of cool.
I love, there's like this flashing sign that says, this is meant to be.
Exactly. Sometimes, yeah, it felt like it was meant to be. It was just, we needed that little catalyst.
Right. Just a little shove, just a little internet shove. Exactly. I love that.
Exactly.
So you have such a cool, I love it. You seem like you have a really cool, like, tight-knit extended family, and you've been in and out of a couple of really cool industries. One of my favorite questions to ask people is if you could go back in time and tell yourself, your past self, a piece of advice. And this is hard. I mean, this could be like your 9-year-old self with your husband just around the corner self, or it could be like 5 years ago. But if there's a point in time where you could go back and tell yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
I don't know. I'm just going to think about that. I would probably tell myself just to have more fun.
Yeah.
Have more fun. Enjoy those times that, just enjoy those little things the things that kind of just seemed very insignificant. But those are sometimes like some of the memories I have that were like, oh, that was really fun. I would have enjoyed, wish I could have been more in the moment.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I struggle with that myself. I'm a very forward thinker, and I'm always thinking through like, okay, I got to have dinner later. Here's my to-do list. What do I want to do before I go to bed? And then what do I have coming up tomorrow? Like everything's always in my head all the time. And so it's very hard. Being present is very difficult. Yes, I find it, just to be like here and now.
Yeah. Okay. And I would also tell myself, go to the Frida Kahlo Museum, because I live 2 blocks away from it in Mexico City and I never went. So I'm like, okay, that would be one thing I would tell myself, just go.
Well, hopefully sometime maybe take a Mexico cruise and go into Mexico City and go see.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. Having more friends, we do to have a tendency to take ourselves and life very seriously. So yeah, it's all right to lighten up and have a good time. Find the humor. It's funny. I've been doing Stitch People podcast interviews and just talking to people day to day, and a lot of people will mention that something good has come out of the whole COVID terribleness for them. And it's sort of like that apology that people have when they're like, oh, I'm a crafter. And you can hear that it's like, people will similarly say like, well, there has been a lot of really hard stuff, but this has also happened. But people don't feel like they can talk about silver linings sometimes and can't talk about, the good things. I think there's something to be said for not only having fun in things that are easy to have fun in, like, oh, I wish I could go back and tell my college self, in school is so much more fun than you think it is. Like, just have fun learning, have fun with what you're doing and the people you're around. But even when things are hard or serious or even tragic, that sometimes it's like, it's okay to find the lighter moments in that as well. And that, we don't have to make things harder than they need to be. I don't know, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just pontificating now, but I love that. So I'm just going to review our little questions here. We've talked about cross-stitching. Oh, tell us about your portraits. Do you have a favorite Stitch People portrait that you've ever stitched that stands out?
I think that I like all of them. I'm trying to think. I have one that I'm excited to do, but I haven't stitched it yet.
Okay.
So I just got it yesterday, and it's a little dog. It's like a little Yorkie, and he's wearing a little sombrero, and he has a guitar, and his name is Peanut Butter.
Peanut Butter, the sombrero Yorkie. Yes. Oh my goodness.
And as I was getting more pictures, I'm like, oh my goodness, I wish Peanut Butter would be my friend. He looks so cool.
I feel like somebody's got to make an animated series about Peanut Butter, the guitar. It's like a little mariachi dog or something with his guitar and sombrero.
Exactly.
I love that. So you said you got it yesterday. Do you get a lot of commissions? Do you sell portraits?
Yes, I do. So that comes in. I haven't really been advertising like, oh, here I am, come buy a portrait from me. But things will come in every now and then. So I kind of I love doing that because it makes me feel honored that they're allowing me to stitch their family or stitch their pets and things like that.
Yeah, it is special. It's like you want to do right by them, and even when you don't know somebody personally, you still want them to have a personal connection with the thing that you've made.
Yes.
So,
yes, yeah, exactly.
That sounds like a great one coming up. Anyway, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I was going to say my favorite one, though, I did a Schitt's Creek portrait. And the one with the eyebrows.
That was you.
Yeah, that was me.
I remember. Oh, yes.
I think that's probably one of my favorites.
I love that. Yeah. So for those who aren't familiar, the TV show Schitt's Creek has a family of 4, mom, dad, brother, and sister. And the dad is played by Eugene Levy, who has those big, dark eyebrows. Mm-hmm. And I remember eyebrows. I did a little a Downton Abbey portrait for a friend who's a fan, and I did the Mr. Casson, the butler, housekeeper, whatever, and he too has those big eyebrows, and it was like he wasn't looking right, and then it was like, oh, I need to put eyebrows on him. That's gonna do, and that was like the one thing, he needed the eyebrows, and it's like instantly recognizable. I loved that. Yes, that was during the Spring Fling VIP. Yes. Yeah, after the Spring Fling classes, we had a VIP Zoom call, and a bunch of us would get on, and everybody was kind of sharing what they were up to. And I remember your Schitt's Creek was right around that time. Oh, that was so good. So good. Yeah. And I remember you nailed the outfits too. You've got a great eye. Well, costumes. There it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Say you've got a great eye for the clothes. That's great. I love that. Do you feel like your background with costumes and sewing has informed your cross-stitch and potential, embroidery techniques?
I think it has. In a way, kind of my techniques are a little bit more, well, before it was, I would just be shown a certain technique and say, okay, here you go, you can do that. But now I'm kind of learning more, refining my embroidery, you can say. But it does help, all the different techniques that I had using the milliner's needles, and kind of the supplies are a little bit different, but it's still very familiar.
Sure. Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, incredibly, time has flown by. So in our last few minutes together, we're kind of approaching the end. And I want to give us some time to do some favorite things questions, because I love these. We've done a couple. We've got your favorite portrait and your favorite vacation destinations with Grand Canyon and Cayman Islands, Grand Cayman. But on a more simple level, do you have a favorite color?
I love turquoise.
Ooh.
That's my favorite.
Solid choice. And do you have a favorite, we'll do the basics. Do you have a favorite smell?
Probably it would be vanilla, I think.
Ooh.
That one's
classic. Can't go wrong. And how about a favorite season? Spring, summer, fall, winter?
I love winter.
Winter in California, or like winter?
Like winter. Like winter over here 2 years ago when it snowed.
A white Christmas. I'm sure because it's a little bit of an anomaly. So it's extra special. Would you consider yourself a cat person or dog person? If you had to pick
the past self was a cat person. Now I'm kind of a dog person.
Ooh, so a little of
kind
both.
Of like a little both.
I like that. Do you have a favorite meal? Like if it's your birthday and someone's like, we're going to eat whatever you want, choose whatever you want, we'll make you your favorite meal, what would you choose?
It'd probably be sushi, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice. Have you always been a fan of sushi, or is that something that you grew into?
I had to grow into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I asked because that's been my experience. I've had to little bit at a time. I get into. I've always loved the flavors. It's the textures that have been hard, but over time I developed. Do you have a favorite sushi roll? Favorite sushi flavor?
No, I like a little bit of everything. So it's not. Awesome. I don't have anything in particular.
I love it. Do you have a favorite movie?
I think it would probably be Back to the Future.
Classic. You have like all these great classic answers. I love it. What about a favorite? This one's a little more broad because it's hard for people. Do you have a favorite song and or musician and or band?
I have a favorite Christmas song.
Perfect. Lay it on.
It's George Michael, but technically it would be Wham! Last Christmas song.
Oh, it's like last Christmas, I gave you my
heart.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Again, very classic. I'm impressed. And let's see. How about this? If you could choose one person from history, like a famous person, celebrity, or historical figure who's passed away, who you could have dinner with, who would you choose?
Oh my goodness, that would be kind of hard. I'm like trying to think who would be a good one. I can go artsy, or I can go sciencey.
I'll give you this. Your top three. You can put together a little dinner party. Who would you invite?
Well, Frida would probably have to be one.
Frida.
Yeah, Frida would be one. Trying to think of who else. I probably have to have George Michael there too, just because I was really sad. And who else? I can't think of another one, and I'll probably think of it afterwards.
Anyone from history, like presidents or kings or queens or Julius Caesar? Or
let me see who. I would probably want to talk to Amelia Earhart because she was awesome.
Oh, yeah. And like, what the heck happened?
Exactly.
I love that. It's like historical mystery, and then you've got your art and then your music. That would be a fun dinner party.
It's a little mix of everything.
I love it. Oh gosh. Well, Michelle, it has been a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you so much for your time today. Do you have anything, now at the tail end of our chat, do you have anything that you want to share as we part with the Stitch People community?
No, thank you for having me.
Of
course. I'm glad that I was able to talk to you.
Same.
And just had a good time.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Well, thank you so much for your time. And everybody listening, please make sure to say hello to Michelle in the Stitch People community when you see her around. And thank you again.
Thank you, Lizzie. I'll talk to you later.
Oh man, I think I would want an invite to that dinner party with George Michael and Frida Kahlo and Amelia Earhart and Michelle. I don't know about you, but I feel like that would be a party. Thank you all for listening today. I hope you feel like you have made a friend in Michelle like I have. And thank you for listening to the Stitch People podcast just generally and enjoying conversations with Stitch people like you. If you haven't already, we would super appreciate it if you could take a moment and subscribe to the podcast, leave us a rating and review. It'll help us to share more cross-stitchy sunshine in the world. You can check out everything Stitch People has to offer at stitchpeople.com, and please be sure to connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. If you'd like to be interviewed on the Stitch People podcast, please go to stitchpeople.com/podcast and find the link to a form to fill out. And we will contact you about being interviewed on the podcast. And if you have any feedback, we would love to hear it. Please email us info@stitchpeople.com. Tell us your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, and we would love to have a conversation with you. Lastly, I want to thank all of you in the Stitch People community for your support of us, but more importantly, your positive and cooperative encouragement of one another. I want to thank the incredible Stitch People team for making all the magic happen behind the scenes, and let you know that our fully licensed jazzy tunage was created by Jonathan Boyle, and Brandon Yost is our sound designer extraordinaire. Have a wonderful day, my friends. Happy stitching. The Stitch People podcast is a production of Beansky LLC and Stitch People. Copyright 2022. All rights reserved.